Hi, I'm Millicent Flake, and I am coming to you today from beautiful Northwest Georgia. We hate that we were not able to host y'all at our beautiful facility at Dalton First Baptist, but we're glad to be able to do this through the wonders of technology. So, today we want to talk a little bit about writing your story, or not so much thinking about a memoir, but just getting your stories down. I want to share with you something that's very special and priceless to me, and it's just this little notebook. My father died in 2002, but in 1997, after he had retired, he started putting together what he called Adam's book. Adam is our son, who's now 31. He is the only grandchild. And Daddy imagined that he was talking to Adam and writing stories. So he put together, he went through and did do some research on his military career. He was in World War II in Patton's Army. But he also wrote stories about his childhood, his grandparents. He included photographs of old family photographs. Later, he kept going with it and wrote about his experiences in the 1960s, helping with the integration of Wilson, North Carolina, where we lived at the time. I wouldn't give anything for this book. And to be very honest, I probably didn't really appreciate it until after my father had passed away. So I really want to encourage you today to think about the legacy that you might be able to leave behind to your family members, your children, and your grandchildren. Um, there's a verse in Deuteronomy that I think really applies with this, Deuteronomy 4:9. This is when God is talking to Moses and the Israelites, giving them his laws and impressing on them to not forget everything he has done for them. Only be careful and watch yourselves closely so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. So you may think of this as a way to really carry on your faith to your family, to let them see how God has worked at every part of your life. And this can be a wonderful way to do that. And you may actually even find that it's fun to go down memory lane and to remember some of the things that happened to you, good and bad, throughout your life. All right, we're going to do a short exercise. If you have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, you're all set. If you don't, you can always pause this video, go get it, and come back. And so if you have your pencil and paper, this is going to be very short. I want you to think about a room from your childhood. Maybe your bedroom, maybe your kitchen, maybe the dining room, maybe the back porch, or might be a special place such as at your grandparents' house. Just try to imagine a place in your house growing up. And I live out in the country. Y'all can hear the train in the background, so I hope it doesn't distract you. It's something we get used to out here. Now, all right, you got that in your head, that room in your house. I want you to we're just going to take 1 minute. I'm going to set the timer. And I would like for you to jot down phrases that just come to your mind about that room. But I want you to think in terms of your five senses. Think about what you would see if you were to walk into that room. Think about what you would hear. Think about what you might smell. Maybe if it's the kitchen, you can remember lots of great smells coming out of there. Think about what you would maybe touch. What would your feet feel like if you were barefoot? Would it be a rough wood floor? Would it be a carpet? And then maybe think about something you might taste in that room, which probably would be the kitchen if that's the room you're thinking of. If it helps your brain to work this way, you might even do it as a map. On your handout, I have shown you where there's a way to do bubbles. And some people like to do it this way to connect things in their mind, or you can just jot it down. All right, so we're just going to take 1 minute, jot down ideas, things you remember about a room from your childhood. All right, go. All right, y'all done? So, I want you to just take that little list, and we're not going to worry about it anymore today. Tomorrow, at some time, I want you to sit down for about 10 minutes. Take that list that you wrote down about that room in a house that you grew up in, and just write a few paragraphs. However much, maybe writing this has sparked a memory of some fun times you had in that room. Maybe you remember playing with your brothers and sisters or cooking with your mother. Maybe you remember time spent watching the Lawrence Welk show with your grandparents, which is one of my fond memories. Just write it down. Don't go back and look at it. Just write it as your rough draft. Put it aside. The following day, pull it out, read over it, and polish it up a little bit. Maybe change a few sentences here and there. Maybe check your spelling or your punctuation. When you're done, you have written a chapter in your memoir. That's as simple as it can be. Just brainstorming, writing that rough draft, polishing it up. Let's think about a few other ways to get your creative juices going. I want you to remember that as you're working on this, there is no right way to do this. It is your story. It should be done whatever feels right to you. Some people are more organized and feel comfortable writing a timeline, maybe going through and marking all of the important dates in your life. If that's how you operate, if that's how your mind works, that's wonderful. Other people may be a little bit different in that they may want to organize it just by memories. Just as something comes up, write it down. As you are reminded of something, write that story down. Again, there's no wrong or right way to do this. One idea, one suggestion, is to start with a significant time in your life. Think about something like your wedding day, maybe the day you entered the Army, maybe when your first child was born. Start with that story and then work forwards and backwards from that. That's another way to get your juices going on this. I would encourage you to not get too hung up on dates or whether you're telling a story exactly right, because remember, this is your memory of it. Now, you might want to get together with family members and, try to remember what year did Daddy die, when did we move, that kind of thing. But, even a brother and sister growing up in the same house are going to have different memories. So just preface your book by saying, this is how I remember things. This was my perspective on what happened in our family's life. All right. On your handout, I have listed some websites that are suggestions that can give you some great writing prompts for getting started with this. Here's a couple of suggestions. Take an important date in history, such as the moon landing. I always remember, I was about 10 years old when that happened, and I always remember that it was on a Sunday, because that is one of the few times in my life up till then that we did not have Sunday night church. And that just was impressed on me that this must be important because we are not having Sunday night church. Where were you when Kennedy was shot? When Nixon resigned? When the Twin Towers fell? These are all important things that your children and your grandchildren and great-grandchildren would probably be interested in knowing about. Pull up an old photograph and try to remember details about when it was taken, where you were. If the photograph's black and white, maybe remember what color was your dress, that kind of thing. Any of those kind of details are always interesting. And you might want to, using the format we just used with the brainstorming, you might want to do that with family members. Sit down and write down everything you can remember about your grandmother. Maybe you have another family member, your parents if they are deceased. Just sit down, and it doesn't have to be someone who has died. Sit down and write about what you remember about your children when they were small. So many of those memories that I feel like I thought I would never forget, I can tell I'm already forgetting some of those. All right, so a couple of suggestions. I hope I'm getting you a little excited about thinking about writing down some stories. So let's talk a little bit about the actual mechanics of doing this. There is always the basics: notepad, notebook. As a writer, I just love an empty notebook. It just waiting to be filled with something. Some people really work better writing things down longhand. Again, if that's how you feel comfortable, go for it. Sit down and just start writing on your notepad. At some point, you may want to get someone to type that up for you. And again, this is could be a great job for, say, a college student, or maybe you have a friend or a child or grandchild who might be willing to do that for you. If you are a computer person and if you're used to being on the computer, you can certainly use a program like Microsoft Word. Google Drive is a free online program that is very much like Microsoft Word. A lot of schools and businesses use it. It's very easy to share documents with other people through Google Drive if they also have it. So that's something to think about, getting Google Drive. If you use any of these word processing programs, just be sure that you save everything into a folder. And if you don't know how to do that, Google saving of things, saving Microsoft Word documents to a folder, and there'll be easy directions on how to do that. But you might not be a computer person. You might not type very well, or you might have some arthritis or something that keeps you from being very mobile with your hands. There are a lot of options for recording yourself telling these stories, which I think would be a wonderful treasure to preserve for your family members, of you actually telling some of these stories. Google Drive that I just mentioned has a feature called voice record, and I've put a link on the handout if you're interested in that. This is really cool. You open up a document, you just click on the little microphone, you start talking, and it types what you are saying. Now, you may have to play with it a little bit just to, you can put in periods and that kind of thing. Great tool to use if you are not a typist. There's a couple of different apps on your phone you can use. I use one that was a one-time $5 charge called Just Press Record, and you speak into your phone and it will transcribe what you are saying, and then you can save that document, or you can copy and paste it into a Google document or a Microsoft Word document. Now, especially maybe with some of our southern accents, it doesn't always do it 100%, but it does give you that option for the transcription. I also found a really cool app that's called Voice Recorder, and I love it because it looks like a cassette tape player, which we all know how to use the old cassette players. This is a free app. However, if you would like the transcription part of it, it is $1.99 a month. So, not very much for if that's an option that you would like. All right, so you've got some stories down, you have written them, you have them in some sort of typed form, or maybe even just handwritten. What to do next? There are several different publishing options. You might, like my father, just print them out. He was typing this on an old typewriter, but now we have printers. Print it out, put it in a loose leaf notebook. That is a great option. You can go to your local Staples, Office Depot, make copies, usually anywhere from 3 cents to 10 cents a copy. If you want to do some color, it's going to be more expensive. Perfect option just to have a copy or a couple of copies to give to your family members. You might think about getting it bound. This is a book of genealogy that my great aunts put together a long time ago, but you can see it's bound, has the laminated covers. I'm sure they got this done at their local office supply store. Not a huge expense, and that's another great way to preserve what you've put together. You may also know that self-publishing is huge now among writers, and there's a couple of different options that you can go for this. Amazon has a service called CreateSpace. Also, and I have a link to this on your handout, that there's a company called Lulu.com. Both of these companies, CreateSpace and Lulu.com, only charge you for the books that you order. Now, there are companies that will, for a fee, and sometimes a very high fee, will do the editing, the formatting, and the publishing for you. I would be careful about some of those companies because sometimes they charge more than you maybe would want to spend. CreateSpace and Lulu.com you might need some help with the formatting. It's just one of those things once you kind of understand what they're asking for. But there again, that's the time to pull in your grandchildren, your children, if you're having a few issues. I'm in a local writing group, and we did a anthology through Lulu.com. Very nice. I think it's very nicely done. Color cover. It's a good size book. we did buy a case of these, which was 60. You might, I don't know if you would need 60 copies, but buying it by the case and also some discounts we had, this came out to about $7 a book. So I don't think that's bad at all for a book that, is something that you can keep. Another great option, if you do go with lulu.com or create space through Amazon, is that your books are then available for purchase through Amazon. So if you have family members that live long ways off, if you feel like there's going to be old classmates, different people who would like a copy, it's really convenient way, instead of you having to try to ship it to them, they can just go on Amazon and buy it. Plus it, makes you feel good to have your book up there on Amazon. And again, these services only charge you for the books that you order, so that's an option. All right, well, I hope that this has inspired you. I hope that you are feeling that you want to pass down your legacy to your family members, that you're wanting to spark conversations about things that have happened in the past. And again, as I said at the beginning, really a way to show how God has worked in your life and to pass that legacy down to your children. My email is on the handout. I would love to hear from any of you if you have questions or if there is anything I could clarify. I would love to read anything that you write, any of your stories. Or maybe if this has inspired you, please just drop me a note and let me know. So thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.